We're here in our demonstration gardens at the UF-IFAS Leon County Extension. And this is some of our first gardens when you drive up to see us. So you'll see a lot of repetition here in these gardens. We've got a fringe tree. We've got a lot of kunti. You'll see that throughout the gardens here. Also these gingers. Here we've got some black and blue salvia that's still flowering. It's a real big attractant to hummingbirds and other pollinators. Some cast iron plants with some cannas there in the background. A Japanese maple. And you'll notice we've got quite a few ornamental grasses all throughout. And they provide a lot of great structure and texture, especially during the winter, when some of these plants might die down to the ground. So here we've got one of our many gingers, and you can see it's flowering here. It's absolutely beautiful. You'll see gingers here and in some of our other shade gardens, along with this pink jacobina. That's another great hummingbird plant. Some more kuntis. Some Mexican heather here. And so with this repetition of the same plants and letting them get to their mature size, you can create a really dynamic landscape with a sort of a limited palette. And you'll see some of our gardens change around a bit, so they, maybe a tree dies and we get less shade coming through, so we might have to move some plants around. For instance, this big cedar way back there, that cedar is probably on its way out in the next several years, so we might have to move some plants around, but for now it's doing well. Here's the entrance to our building. Here's our second bed. This is called bed 2. And you can see here we've got the start of a puddler. It's just a pot with a tray up on it, so the birds and other insects can visit. They can get their water. Lots of black-eyed Susans. Now these are plants that we love. We propagate from these a lot, and you can see we've got a sign here for larkspur. The larkspur we just cut down. It bloomed really long this year, pretty well into the summer. And you'll see this repetition of that kunti again. And it's really bright green. We cut it back and that new growth is really beautiful. That akuba that we'll see again. That's variegated shell ginger. Then we integrate a lot of palms as well into our landscape. Some native, some non-native. But of course, if you get any of the spiky ones, you want to put them further back in the bed so you don't have to run into them. Here is a rosemary. And so this rosemary, you can kind of see what happened here. This plant back here grew way over this one. So what we did was we cut this one back, which this one is a viburnum. It's a Walter's viburnum. And it's beautiful, it's native, it flowers, but it just grew too big and it overshadowed this rosemary. So we're hopeful, and it's starting to show some signs of regrowth, that by cutting back the Walter's viburnum, we'll get some new growth and really shape up this rosemary, but we'll see. It may be that the rosemary is too far gone and we might have to replace it with something else. Some more grasses. Now these grasses and these large shrubs make great places for wildlife to hang out. So we'll often see birds and other smaller little critters around here. And this is a great example of a wildlife garden, because you can see this is kind of an example of what a homeowner might have. There's a bit of grass, there's some good big mature trees, some really huge trees, really. This shoe-marred oak is massive. But then there's multiple layers. So you have these huge, 60 plus foot trees here, smaller trees like this Japanese maple, and then you have a lot of ground cover. So this helps birds and other wildlife have some protection from predators. So it provides a lot of habitat. You'll see another one of our little puddlers here for insects. And so by gardening for wildlife, not only are we creating a beautiful garden, but we're creating a garden that we can share with the animals that come to visit us. Right around here, I saw a snake here yesterday, and that's a great sign. That means they're keeping control of, the rodent population that might be around. Here's another set of those beautiful gingers. And this ash magnolia, this will eventually get much larger. Huge, beautiful magnolia. The flowers on this get to be the size of a dinner plate, about 12 inches across. Absolutely beautiful. You can see some mountain mint here at the bottom. Ground cover, lots of pollinators all over it. So that's not native, but it smells great. It's wonderful to weed through and walk through a little bit. You can also see this solidago or goldenrod. That's starting to flower here. It's August. Well, starting to begin to flower. It's not quite ready yet. A little banana. Coming up here, we will have cardinal guard. It's a good, if you've got a shady spot that you still want to plant some hummingbird attractants, this is a great one. It's not native, but it's really easily propagated by cuttings. Long tubular flowers. Here's another long tubular flower. This small tree, it's called a red buckeye. And it flowers early in the season, probably about early March. You can see we've got a lot of ferns and other plants in here. Stokes Aster, it looks like it just finished flowering, but this is a beautiful purple flower, and it does great in full sun or a little bit of shade like we have it here, and you'll see that we have it several places around the garden. So by choosing some of these plants that we can fall back on and that we can reuse multiple places, we can really have a garden that one communicates with itself and is beautiful. And then you can spread, beautiful plants throughout it as well.